This is the Crowdcrux Crowdfunding Podcast with Sal Briggman, where we cover everything you need to know to launch a successful crowdfunding campaign. We speak with proven entrepreneurs who've raised money from the crowd and want to teach you how to do the same. Stay tuned because we're about to reveal how to launch your dream project. With your host, Sal Briggman.
Before we get started with this podcast episode, I want to take a second to introduce you to my friends at Fulfillrite. If you need help shipping out your Kickstarter or Indiegogo perks or rewards, Fulfillrite is the absolute best company for you. I've been working with them for a while and I can vouch for their services. They make it dead simple and take all of the headache out of shipping out all of those boxes, all of those orders to your backers and your customers. If you want to check them out, go to fulfillrite.com at fulfillrite.com. What up, crowdfunders? Salvador Briggman here. Hope you're having a great day wherever you're listening to this podcast from. In New York City, it's kind of a gray, gloomy, rainy day. I think we're transitioning into the fall period right now. So the seasons are changing a bit. And I love fall. Like, don't get me wrong, the beauty that is fall, all of the changing leaves, the colors, that kind of stuff. I love that in New York City. But at the same time, I'm going to miss summer. Like, I had so much fun this past summer going to Lake George, spending time with my friends, going on vacations. A few weekends ago, I actually piloted a plane for the first time ever. It was insane. It was so much fun. It was also really nerve-wracking. You know, you literally have your life in your hands. It was like an hour-long kind of a pilot lesson, and the guy let me take full control of the plane. After he taught me some different stuff, and at certain points in time, you felt literally like Maverick in Top Gun. But at other times, I was like, oh man, this is really scary. My organs like go into free fall depending on the movements of the plane, kind of like riding a roller coaster, if you will. So it was a ton of fun this summer. And I think it's important to, we have a narrative, particularly in the entrepreneurial space, of like work, hustle, the grind. And that is super important. You got to be working hard. You got to be educating yourself. You have to be putting in the hours if you want to see the result. If you want to successfully raise money on Kickstarter, with Indiegogo, or you want to build up an online store, build up a business, you have to put in the work. But at the same time, there needs to be a healthy, emotionally recharging period regularly in your life. I'm talking like once a quarter here. Just from my own experience, this is something that's been difficult for me over the years. When I first got started, it was like all work. It was like very heavy, dense, logical stuff, dealing with teammates and emails and writing and speaking. And it's something where you can do it for a certain amount of time, but unless you have these very healthy, emotionally recharging periods, you're going to end up beating yourself up. You're not going to enjoy the process along the way. We're all just going day by day through life, and these little moments are what's making up your freaking life. It's crazy to me that I used to look back and, looking at my mindset before, I was just ignoring all of my emotions or ignoring all the things happening around me and just focusing singularly on work. Nowadays, I have a much more healthy and balanced kind of a lifestyle. And I am very fortunate to have a business that allows me to do that. I think the worst thing is when you, as an entrepreneur, end up working for your business rather than your business working for you. So I'm actually going to be sharing something right now that I'm not sure the degree to which my audience might be interested in this. I'm not sure if you're interested in this, but I decided to put together a course just because I've learned so much in the last few years. I've learned a ton about how to build a successful online business, how to build a blog from 0 readers to thousands of readers, more than 20,000 readers, to over 1 million page views. I've learned how to build up a podcast and YouTube, and I've just done a tremendous amount. I've learned so much along the way. So I decided that in order to sort of put a button or a bow on this period of my life, I wanted to put together all of the lessons, everything I've learned from becoming a full-time blogger. These are all of the hard-earned lessons that took me a while to learn. These are all the things that are sort of the tricks of the trade, if you will, behind my success online. And these are the things that I've used, these are exact same strategies to build up a blog to thousands and thousands of social media followers, thousands and thousands of subscribers. And it's kind of like almost surreal at certain points in time that you get emails and you get messages, and it kind of feels, I don't know, like in a small way, like a celebrity status within the space. But I don't really want it to go to my head in that way. It's more of that I want to show you how to do the exact same thing if you're interested. Being a blogger is really cool because you have freedom. You have freedom of time. You have freedom within your lifestyle to go and do other things. You can work from anywhere. You can work from a cafe. You can work from another country. You can work at home. You don't have to deal with commutes anymore. If you're at all interested in doing what I've done in terms of becoming a full-time blogger, now I employ 2 part-timers that help out with my stuff. If you are interested in doing that and really adding more freedom to your life so that you can not only do cool stuff like go and fly a plane, but you could also, if you want to, cultivate a skill. Cultivate, something else you've been putting off for a really long time. You can do whatever you want with your time. Could be reading, could be going on a hike, could be chilling on the beach if you want to do that. It's really up to you. So if you're interested in learning more about this program that I've put together, you can go and check out this link at crowdcrux.com/freedom. That is crowdcrux.com/freedom. I invite you to enroll there. It's free for the wait list. I'll send out 1 or 2 videos leading up to it, sort of educate and share some information about blogging and becoming more of a lifestyle entrepreneur. And then I'll introduce you to, it took me a while to put together this entire program. So if you're interested, again, that's crowdcrux.com/freedom. But without further ado, today's podcast episode, I think that more and more I want to have people in the crowdfunding industry come on this podcast. I brought on a crowdfunding consultant who, with his very first campaign, raised $1.5 million on Kickstarter and Indiegogo in demand. So he shares with you what he did to be able to raise that much money. He shares with you the marketing strategies, how he got backers, like all that kind of stuff you're going to find with this podcast episode. And then after this campaign, he went on to another project. This campaign raised $50,000, but then something kind of strange happened. They ended up canceling the campaign and forfeiting all of that money. Like they just gave up $50,000, like all of that money that they've raised. They literally just said, you know what, we can't accept this. So he goes into why they made that decision. And I think it's something that you really have to be aware when you're going into a campaign, why you're looking for a certain amount of money. And also, if you end up overfunding, what can happen. So Ivan talks about that. He also talks about his first campaign and what it's like to be a crowdfunding consultant. So if you're interested in being a crowdfunding consultant or entering this industry in any way, I urge you to listen to this podcast episode. I think you're going to like it a lot. And finally, for those of you out there who are looking to launch your own campaign on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or another crowdfunding website, go and listen to some of the other episodes as well that I have in this podcast. Because in my archives, because I have a lot of archives. Like I have over 170 episodes. There's a lot of great information there where you can learn literally what these entrepreneurs did to raise 6 and 7 figures on Kickstarter. So I urge you, go and check out some of my archived podcast episodes. Without further ado, let's get into today's podcast episode. Ivan, welcome to the show. Where are you hailing in from?
Thanks. I'm calling from beautiful Slovakia.
Cool. And so I want to give the listeners a little bit of an idea of what you do. I know you just kind of contacted me out of the blue, but I was really impressed with some of the work you've been doing with crowdfunding campaigns. You're the self-branded crowdfunding guy at Benjamin Button. Can you share with the listeners a little bit of your story?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the introduction. So Benjamin Button has started as a project of Dominic, the founder, in 2014. And at the very beginning, he gathered some really good team around him, and they were working on the prototype for around 2 years before they were ready to go to the Kickstarter. So they asked me to join because I've had previous experience in another campaign, and I said yes. So from that time, our team grew to actually 8 people, and we were working on a campaign for probably like a year before Kickstarter, like all together. I joined a little bit less before the campaign.
Okay.
So yeah, yeah.
I would say before we get into the Benjamin Button, I want to hear all about that, all of the product and the stuff you've learned. Can you tell me about the other project that you were working on before that?
Yeah, sure. I was working on Skinners. Skinners are these sock shoes, which were pretty viral on Kickstarter. I mean, we had a funding goal of 10,000 US dollars. And we said, okay, we're gonna be happy if we raise 100,000, but I think we ended up on 650,000 on Kickstarter, and then we switched to Indiegogo, and we're around 2 millions right now on Indiegogo.
Wait, so you did the in-demand program on Indiegogo?
Yeah, sure.
Man, that is massive success. When did you join the project for this? Were you doing the pre-launch, all that kind of stuff? Did you come in midway? When did you join?
I think it was 3 months before the start of the campaign, then during the campaign, and then I was in the team another 3 or 4 months.
Mm-hmm. So how did you then, I guess, come across the team and the product and the project? Were you were doing the marketing for the campaign, obviously. How did you actually start that relationship with the team?
You mean Skinners or Benjamin?
With Skinners.
Oh, with Skinners, it's been more like a coincidence. Our friends invited me and Peter, the founder, to something like informal or informal business dinner at his place, and we kind of started talking. I was already following Kickstarter and crowdfunding in general. I was reading a lot of articles, and we somehow just talked with each other, and then like 2 days after, I got the offer, which I couldn't refuse.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool offer. Were you doing like marketing beforehand? How did you learn the skills that went into the project?
Actually, I wasn't doing that much marketing beforehand because I've studied something else. I have a degree in business studies, which weren't at all connected with marketing. It's been more like logistics stuff.
Oh man, you were learning a lot then, really quickly.
Yeah, I'm a self-learned marketer. I was working on another project which wasn't fit for crowdfunding. It was more like a healthcare startup, which it was really cool product, but wasn't good for Kickstarters. Kickstarter, it doesn't allow products that are in a healthcare category to be featured over there.
Walk me through this and then a little bit. You're sort of thrown into this new opportunity. You have this really cool project that you're working on, you're excited about. It's your job to market this and get the word out. So how did you, learn that skill set when that was something that was sort of different from everything else you've been doing? How did you get up to speed on crowdfunding and marketing and that kind of stuff?
Well, I think the main reason was that we've been talking with Peter, the founder, a lot. I mean, he shared a lot of good articles with me, and I was really curious to find everything I could on the internet. So I basically went through Medium articles which were tagged crowdfunding or Kickstarter, probably through like all of the good ones. And then I came across your podcast. I started reading another blogs. I started participating in the Kickstarter forum and in Reddit as well. So that's somehow how I build up the experience with crowdfunding.
That makes me so happy because all of this knowledge that I put out there then helps you launch the campaign. and the forum too
Yeah,
there for people to ask
definitely.
questions. That
You're
makes me
doing a great job.
Oh, thank you so much, man. That makes me just so happy to hear. And I'm really, geez, the success that you saw with this project just blows me away. I mean, from a $10,000 goal upwards of $600,000, more than that, with a Kickstarter campaign, that's pretty awesome for your first campaign.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
So,
I mean, it was also it's important to mention that Peter has done like all the important job on the first campaign. So I was, really happy to be on the board, and it's been only two people who were working on the campaign. So it's been also really time consuming. We've had like hundreds of messages some days, and we were just replying to all of them. So
you
it
see,
was so time consuming.
yeah, I can imagine. I mean, you have all these new backers that you have to do sort of customer support for. You have all these messages. How many people then were on that initial team for the Skinner's project?
It was only two people working on the campaign, plus one person who was working on the like background things such as accounting, finances, logistics support, and then we had external team for the video production and photos.
Wow, you got a lot done for just a small team there. Um,
Yeah.
I want to hear a little bit about what then worked really well, do you think, with this project? I mean, you have a really awesome product. Kudos to your teammate Peter for putting this together. I mean, it's just mind-boggling to be able to put together a product. I think for most people deal with manufacturing, so that's a ton of work. I don't want to leave that out, but in terms of what you took away worked well with this project, what would you say to that?
Mm, I think, and it's kind of funny because I think most of the traffic that we got on the page was organic. I think it was just a really good product for Kickstarter because it's been really cheap. It's been exclusive. No one has done it before, or at least not in the quality that we offered. And we didn't even have a huge email list before the campaign. We just launched the campaign, had a few media scheduled up, and the whole campaign just, skyrocketed.
So you thought this was entirely then, I guess, organic in that you mean people are coming from the Kickstarter platform? Is that how they're discovering you?
Um, I mean, you need to build somehow a good launch before the campaign, but we weren't expecting at all a campaign that would be so successful as Skinner's in the first time. I mean, obviously, in the later stages of the campaign, you are working with bigger agencies that drive the traffic, but it wasn't our case from the first half of the campaign.
So basically, you hit that launch button and you then started to trend well on Kickstarter. Is that kind of how it happened?
Yeah, I mean, we've ranked really high in the Kickstarter algorithm in total projects. We've been in top 10 within 48 hours. We've been already fully funded, like 400% probably funded within 2 days because the campaign was funded in 6 hours. So we weren't expecting that at all. So I think that's what's done the most of the work.
Do you think it was just the fact that your product resonated so well? Do you think it was the quality of your video, or it was just something that people were really looking to get in on? This is a product that they really wanted. Do you have any ideas? What you think?
Yeah, it was
caused that?
probably a combination of good product. I think the video was really shot in a great way with the budget that we had. I mean, probably now we would do the video in a different way, but we are limited on budget, so we didn't have any high expectations from that. So I think it was mostly about the product and the video and the graphics as well.
For the actual video there, what kind of budget did you set aside to make this? Because I think a lot of people think you now have to have a super huge budget for actually making a video that stands out in any meaningful way. I'm just kind of curious, for your first project, you're working on a limited budget. Can you give a ballpark figure what you allocated for that?
Yeah, it was around $2,000.
Okay. And that's the literally the critical component of your marketing. For investing $2,000 in a video, you certainly got a really great ROI on that.
Yeah, totally.
Now, what about all these media publications? Like I'm looking here, you're featured in Forbes, The Verge, like Digital Trends, Tech Insider, a bunch of these. How did that come about?
Well, we started reaching out to media probably like 1 month before the campaign because we knew that we need the media and we weren't using any big agency for that. I mean, it was mostly done in the team, plus the other guy from the US joined, who was also just a PR freelancer. And so it was just, we've joined our forces like internally in the team plus him, and I think you can see the result on the web page. The coverage was just great. And I mean, I was reading a lot how you need to pay for a huge marketing or PR agency who does all the PR for you. But I think the best results are when you do the PR yourself, because you need to be persistent. And when you go with a huge PR agency, then they don't care about the success of the PR that much as you do. So the best thing, and I would just say this to everyone, is just do the PR by yourself, save some money on the PR agency, and invest that in the video.
I had to interrupt this podcast episode because I want to introduce you to my friends at The Gadget Flow. Their product discovery platform reaches 22 million people per month. They've helped more than 5,000 crowdfunding campaigns thus far, and they have a social media following of more than 700,000 followers. If you want to gain access to their marketplace and list your own product, you can go to thegadgetflow.com/submit and list your project today. I mean, I couldn't agree more with you. That's one of the reasons I put together an entire course on PR. I think it's something where you benefit so much from doing it yourself. It's just a little bit difficult at first because you're kind of sending out emails and it's like you don't get that many replies. But what was like the experience for you when you were trying to contact journalists? Were people just instantly interested in this? Were they kind of standoffish? How did you get that actual media hit?
It wasn't that easy as we thought. I mean, we've read a lot and we were expecting a low response rate, but the reality was probably even worse than we expected.
If you send out, like, say, 10 emails, you might get one reply. Is that kind of how it was working there, or even less?
Yeah, it was probably even less. I mean, we didn't have a huge database of journalists. I don't think buying a database of journalists is a good way to go. We've built our own database from actually checking the PR coverage of the campaigns, which were a bit similar to ours. And then we just wrote personalized emails to each of the journalists, like, hey, John, I've seen you've wrote about this and this product, which was on Kickstarter, and I see it was a huge hit. Do you mind having a look at our product, which is launching soon? This was basically all that we've been doing before the campaign.
And would they say that?
I think it worked. Like when we've sent like third round of the emails, the response rate was actually better than 1 out of 10 after the third round.
Okay, so did they agree to write about you the moment you launched? Did they have to see like a prototype to review it? Or was this like once you got, starting to trend well on Kickstarter, then they were willing to write about you?
Well, the great thing about Skinners was that we've had a product, or at least the prototypes of the product, ready before the campaign. So we were able, if the journalists demanded the samples, we were able to send them the samples. And I think this was also a crucial factor for us, how it was so successful.
Yeah, because the journalist then gets to see it. You know, you've seen so many different crowdfunding campaigns that fail to deliver, or that the product is kind of half baked. And I think there's just a little bit shyness when it comes to, well, this seems like a cool thing, but unless I have it in my hand, I really can't write about it. So I think it's really smart that you guys had that going in.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I'm really impressed with this first campaign, man. I want to ask you, you know, personally, for your own, you know, your own journey here, your own experience. This is the first campaign you've worked on. You know, this is kind of an opportunity that was presented to you. What did it feel like, you know, halfway through when you've seen you're trending here, you're at 300,000, going to 400,000, 500,000. What did that feel like being able to work on this project?
It was just amazing because I think all the creators know that feeling when you get the first pledge and when then you start getting notifications one after another. So we were just so surprised that this was happening. We actually had to turn off the notifications on the iPhone. Yeah, and I think it's a beautiful feeling, you know, when the bakers believe in your product, when they believe in your idea, and then when your campaign is doing really well.
What exactly were you doing then? Once you saw that you were getting a bunch of funding, you know, let's just say it's the middle of the campaign. What were you doing to continue to spread the word and on the marketing front to get more and more backers?
We were contacted probably like every day with 20 different marketing offers. So it was really hard when you are new at crowdfunding. You basically don't know how to distinguish in between the really good offers and then the bad ones. There is one good offer for 10 bad ones, so it's really hard. So we've tried to have Skype calls with almost anyone who, you know, didn't make any grammatical errors, or with people who offered us something which looked interesting for us. And from the Skype, we somehow had a feeling if this might work or if it might not. And we've done a few paid promotions, few were just, you know, purely organic ones. Most of them have worked, probably like one or two were completely fails. But then we've started working with bigger agencies, and from that time the campaign has just skyrocketed.
Did you recommend any of these larger agencies that someone could look into?
Yeah, I mean, we've been in contact with Jelab and Funded Today as well, and then with Becker Camp. And we've decided to go with Jelab, and I think it was a great decision.
So these guys basically did the Facebook ads for your campaign and Google ads, that kind of stuff?
Yes.
Very cool. And I think it really shows here, too. They're sort of a company that came on my radar a lot more recently, but they've been doing some good work as well for some other projects. So kudos to them. I'll include that link in the show notes here. Well, dude, this is great success, and just to be able to say that you participate, it's almost like a movement now. It feels like around this campaign, so many backers, really large and thriving community, like over 700 comments. That must have just been a great feeling there to see that campaign be successful. And it's gone on with Indie Man to do over $1 million, like almost at the $2 million mark now. So that's impressive too.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I want to sort of turn our attention to the second campaign, the Benjamin Button one, and we sort of teased that a little bit at the beginning of the interview here. So I want to talk a little bit about that, and also just kind of round off here with other things that you've learned that you can pass on to the audience for other people that are just like you. You know, they're learning all this kind of stuff. They're trying to do a successful campaign. We can sort of round it off that way. So my first question is, with the Benjamin Button, can you first explain what the product is and a little bit of the campaign here?
Yeah, sure. So Benjamin Button is actually this really smart button-shaped camera that you put on yourself or on your kids, and it stores the best moments in the kids' lives. It was all formed in 2014 when Dominic, the founder, he just realized that he was missing the most important moments in his daughter's lives. So he's decided to create a device that not only shoots all the moments that your kid is doing, but also knows how to pick the best moments. And that additional feature was this really intelligent software, which saves you all the time that you usually spend with video editing.
And what?
And yeah.
Okay, so well, first of all, I'd say the product I think is in a very different niche or industry than your first one, which is actually really fascinating because I actually don't come across too many campaigners that like launch a second product that's a little bit very different than their first, I would say. This is a very different kind of niche too, where hardware, you start to get into manufacturing, you start to get into, electrical components, like that kind of stuff. I imagine those were also challenges going into this next one.
Yeah, I had to study a lot of new things, especially like from a hardware point of view, like you mentioned. But Benjamin Button, they were on my radar for quite some time because they won several awards, and I've always think that their, like additional value in this intelligent software is something that can make them really, really successful. So once they contacted me, it wasn't the other way around. They contacted me and they asked if I want to be part of the team for following Kickstarter campaign. I had to say yes. And I think it was a great decision as well.
And did they, I guess they saw your previous success with the other campaign, Skinner's campaign, and brought you on for that reason. And I think, you've done a great job with this first one. With the second one, so I noticed you guys basically, you set a funding goal, which you raised at least double that, 50 grand. But then what happened? You wrote a really in-depth Medium article, which I'm going to link to in the show notes just to give people a little bit more context here. But what was the sort of the takeaway or the crux of this campaign?
Well, when we've launched the campaign, it was fully funded again, it was less than 24 hours, which was amazing. And the initial traction was just great. We knew what we were doing. We had a bigger team, and I thought we might be like more successful after the first 24 hours. But this huge peak was created due to people that we've gathered around the product. So once after like 2 or 3 days, once these people stopped pouring in, I think it was just hidden somewhere in the Kickstarter algorithm. So we didn't get a lot of organic traffic from Kickstarter. And that's why, the campaign, we were expecting to raise 25. So raising 50 was twice as much as we wanted to, which was a huge, huge hit. But then there was another thing, which, like you mentioned, the hardware is really complicated. So we had to recalculate everything. And we found that we needed much more than 50,000. So, developing a software that works on machine learning is a really expensive thing. So we weren't really sure that we can deliver the product. There was always a decent chance that we might get either a good investor or we might be really, really successful and raise more money than we needed, but it was still only a smaller chance. And we didn't want to take all of the money of the backers and then not deliver the product. So we've decided just like 1 or 2 hours before the end of the campaign to cancel the campaign. It was probably one of the hardest decisions that we've made, like in my life and also in Dominic's life and also like the rest of the team. But it was a great decision.
I have to say that really takes guts. Like that takes courage to do, because many of the project creators out there, and you can see this, what they end up doing is they raise that money and they realize afterwards, oh, I actually can't fulfill these rewards. And this doesn't always happen where the backers get refunded. Like sometimes these creators just literally take the money, they burn through it, and then they realize that. And it's kind of disingenuous to the backers, but you saw this ahead of time and you were willing to cancel the campaign and sort of maintain that relationship. I think that takes a lot of guts to do that.
Yeah, thank you.
From this second campaign, would you have done anything differently if you were going in? I saw something regarding the number of emails you collected. Would you have done anything differently?
Yes, I mean, there is always a place for the improvement. First, we would prepare like complete calculations for hardware and software development before the campaign, and then set appropriate, funding goal. Because for hardware products, setting a funding goal that's below 50,000, it's really a hard thing to do. When you are developing hardware product, you cannot raise the money for hardware or software development. You should have the minimum viable product already ready. I mean, we probably had a product which was able to shoot the videos, but it didn't have the intelligent part. So that's the first and probably the most important thing. And then in terms of marketing, if I can give some advices to your listeners.
I'm speaking to the crowdfunders in the audience who have already launched a Kickstarter campaign, or have actually even successfully run a campaign. And the reason is, I think you will understand this pain point most. And that is, when you finally do raise money on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, the hardest part is not collecting the cash. The hardest part is shipping out all of those perks and rewards to your backers. It is a nightmare, my friends. It's a lot of spreadsheets, it's a lot of headache, and it's a lot of stress. That's why I recommend BackerKit. If you have not heard of BackerKit, they help you collect surveys, they help you collect data, and the entire fulfillment process is just so much easier and so many less spreadsheets when you use their software. You can check them out at backerkit.com and use CrowdCrux for a special discount.
Try to invest a decent amount of money in the campaign video, because like we discussed with Skinners, it's probably the most important thing. And then, as you mentioned, build a huge... you don't need to pay for the emails. There are ways how you can build it organically with trying to post interesting things to Facebook, or just going to the events, talking about the launch, talking about the product. So it doesn't need to be expensive at all, but just try to have at least 1,000 people who are in your email list, so the beginning of the campaign is better. And probably the third thing which I would advise, try to look at the demographics of the Kickstarter, because I think they are pretty open about this. You can find demographics on if you just do a simple Googling, and if you need to sell a product which is aimed to parents and mostly females, it's really hard to find this audience on Kickstarter.
So being aware of the people that are regularly browsing the platform and how your product can fit in.
Yeah, just be aware. There were a lot of people who were just, saying be aware of the fact that there are not too many females, not too many mothers on Kickstarter. And we're yeah, we know it. We are, trying to cope with it, but it just didn't work that much.
So let me ask you, how have you grown, or how do you view that you have grown as a marketer? Because you started entering the industry, without a marketing background. You've learned a tremendous amount about crowdfunding and marketing. What have you gotten really good at? What have you improved in, would you say, since you started?
I think you cannot ever stop learning. So you need to be constantly checking other projects, writing the things that worked for you, that worked for them, being inspired as well, and then just being with the people who can make a better version of yourself. I mean, if you just surround yourself with the right people, then you can grow like you've never imagined beforehand. And that's the thing with Benjamin Button. Even though we've canceled the campaign, we know we have a great team. We have a passionate community of people who are around Benjamin. So once we do the relaunch of the campaign, I'm sure we will be much more successful for the second time.
Mm-hmm. Making sure that you surround yourself with people that kind of push you to that next level. That's something I haven't talked very much about on this podcast, and specifically team building, all of that kind of stuff. So that's really cool that you shared that. Would you say you've gotten better at things like, reaching out to the media or like ads, or are you looking to improve your skills in any other ways?
Sure. But I think, once you are doing another campaign, like the second one, you try to think of your time as well. And maybe a better thing is to distinguish or just to spread your time between more people. So don't do everything by yourself. It was a crazy idea to do the crowdfunding campaign in 2 people. So try to focus on each individual's strengths. So if someone is really good in Facebook ads, I'm probably not trying to be as good as the guy who's really good in Facebook ads. I can give him some good ideas, but I will just leave the work to him. So it's just by constant discussions how you can improve, but don't try to do everything just by yourself.
Well said. That's also something I'm working to get better at, because I think I can do everything myself. And it's like, no, I have to, you have to delegate to your team. You have to be willing to give people free reign to do the work that they are good at, and not be such a micromanager, like that kind of stuff. I'm still working at that.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to do. I mean, there are some really good books that you can read about it. One of the best being like Tim Ferriss's like 4-Hour Work Week. But there are also dozens of different ones.
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of information out there. You just got to search for it. Well, we've touched a lot of interesting stuff in this interview, talking about the launch process, how you've gotten media attention, the importance of building up emails before we launch, using anything like organic, sharing that on social media, directing that to a landing page, using lead pages, something like that to build up your email list. Is there anything else you would like to pass on to the listeners in terms of what they should be focused on going into their very first campaign? This is sort of my last question for you here.
Mm-hmm. Apart from all the things that you mentioned in terms of online marketing, I would say a really, really important thing is also offline marketing, which means just going to the streets and talking with your potential audience and just trying to find the perfect need and the perfect solution for your product. Because you need to know which particular thing is working. You need to have it tested. And after you do this, you can have a better and more successful campaign as well.
Are you then looking in the future to become a professional campaign manager? Like, are you going to be managing other people's campaigns as well? Is this something in your future?
I would say it's really interesting way because not too many people know how to do it, and you can spot certain patterns, but we need to see about that.
Okay, if people want to find out more information about the new launch for Benjamin Button, where would they go to find that?
Definitely check out our Medium page. We've sort of started writing a really transparent blog about all the lessons that we've learned. We are also quite frequent poster on Facebook, and then you can also check our webpage, benjaminbutton.co.
Okay, and if people also want to find out more information about you personally, would they go on LinkedIn to do that? Do you have a personal website or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is good, Facebook is also good, and probably the best way to contact me would be just to check my personal website, which is Ivan, like IVAN, ZATKO.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all this great information. I think that people can really hit the ground running, with this information. And I think it also just shows you can enter crowdfunding, you can launch a campaign without being an expert in crowdfunding. Like, you don't need to be a marketing expert. You just have to be willing to learn and try things out and sort of go as learn as you go, as your story very clearly illustrates. So that to me just it engenders a tremendous amount of confidence for someone who's just starting out. Like, yes, you can do it, and like you can have this $600,000 raise. You don't necessarily anticipate that. It's just the magic of the Kickstarter ecosystem there.
Yeah, definitely. And probably it was also my advantage that I wasn't a really skilled marketer beforehand, because I see a lot of marketers who are trying to do crowdfunding in ways that worked for them in a regular like e-commerce. But the thing with Kickstarter or Indiegogo is just a lot of things work in a really different way. So don't try to, even if you're not a marketer, you can be a pretty successful crowdfunding guy. So don't lose hopes and follow your dreams. If your dream is to be a really skilled crowdfunding expert, I think you can do it. You just need to learn a lot. You need to be willing to listen, and you can definitely do it.
Do you also, I don't know, it's kind of hard to remember the various podcast episodes, but did you have anyone that stood out to you personally of my podcast, just out of curiosity?
Just before this podcast, I was listening to your recent one with the guy which I was following a lot during his campaign, and it was the guy with the camera, Adam, and I think you've done a great job with him.
Oh yeah, that one's really interesting too, because he did a really good job of like crafting a landing page and getting attention before he launched his project, and he also just had a really freaking cool campaign. So that's a really good one to listen to. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Ivan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, sharing all that great information. Really appreciate it. Maybe we'll have you back with the relaunch to see how you're doing with the Benjamin Button campaign. But I appreciate that, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you, Sal, for having me, and good luck to everyone who is listening. Good luck with your campaigns.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified Podcast. Hope you got a ton of value out of this podcast episode. I enjoyed talking with Ivan. I think he's going to be doing some great work in the future. And also, I hope you got some lessons, some strategies that you can apply to your own Kickstarter campaign, your own Indiegogo campaign. And if you haven't, go and check out some of the other episodes, some of the other archives that I have with the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. I have a ton of guests on, people from many different industries, people who have raised money in the publishing category, the technology category, the gaming category. Go and check out some of the other episodes that I have out there. But finally, if you are interested in building more of a freedom-based lifestyle, you're looking to build up a lifestyle business, one that doesn't just maximize profit, but also allows you to do other things. If you want to become a full-time blogger, then this is the program that I put together for you. I'm taking you behind the inner workings of my own website, which is taking me 4 or 5 years to build up now. I take you through all of that, like the inner workings of the site. I talk about the different revenue sources, how to make money blogging, how how to get subscribers, really boost your email subscriber count, how to get traffic from Google and other sources. If you want to learn about all of that, go and check out this link, crowdcrux.com/freedom. That is crowdcrux.com/freedom. I think the underlying goal here is not just to become a full-time blogger, not just to be able to do that for a living and be able to, have a bunch of readers that form your community and sell products or whatever it is that you'd like to do. I think the underlying goal is to make it so that you are not a slave to your business, but rather your business is working for you. You're doing something that you love that gives you the freedom to be able to go out there and spend your time as you would like. You can spend your time doing something like flying drones. That's what I love to do. You can spend time learning how to become a pilot. You could spend time horseback riding. You could spend time, if you want to, just chilling on the beach. If that's really what you want to do, you can do whatever you want with your time. Most of my time is honestly spent reading and learning and improving myself in different ways, but also working on my business. So it's really a lifestyle that you create yourself and what you want to do with that free time. So if you are interested in becoming a full-time blogger, just like me, I share with you all of the tricks of the trade. I share with you exactly what I did to build up a massive following online and be able to do what I do full-time, and I really do enjoy it. As you can tell, I'm a nerd. I'm a crowdfunding nerd. You can check that out at crowdcrux.com/freedom. My name is Sal, and I'll see you next time.